Good Monday morning. I hope that you had a great weekend. The weather in Colorado is finally warming up and we're getting some sunshine, which makes me so happy. It's been a cold, long winter for us and lots of wind this spring. It's kind of felt like Oklahoma plains with the winds that we've had. So welcome. My name is Sarah and I am a startup coach and I love helping people who have a business idea turn it into a reality and turning it into a profitable business. I also love helping people who are just hiding behind their computers and kind of dabbling with business actually come out from behind their computer and get their businesses started. So I'm glad to have you here, whether you're watching with me live or you are watching in the future. Welcome, and I'm so glad you're here. I love helping business owners avoid the mistakes that I've made so that you can launch a profitable business faster and easier. And if you've missed some of my Facebook Lives in the past, you can check those out in my Facebook group in the guides section. So today I am very excited to talk with you about a problem that I see with so many people, and it's one that every business owner struggles with, and that is finding more leads, customers, and clients. Without having these people, you do not have a business. You just don't. You need those people coming in, those leads, and turning them into customers and clients. And you might be tempted to just jump right into finding leads. But I think that there's really a lot of work to be done before we start attracting people to us. There's a lot of work that we have to do in the background to get ready. So a couple of things for you. Go back and check out 2 of my videos. I'm going to drop a link below in the comment section when this video is over about the 5 things you should really know about a business, 5 terms that you should know. And also last week, I introduced you to the idea of my high 5 approach to building a business. And you really should have a good understanding of both of those things before you jump into finding leads. Now, today's video is really going to be about some theory behind finding leads. And then next week, we'll talk about where these people actually are. But I think that a lot of times coaches just tell you, hey, go do this, 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 follow these steps, do this formula, and it's magically going to work for you. And I just don't think that that's true. I'm a teacher. I think that you should be taught why these things work, the theory behind it, so then you know when you're carrying out these practical steps that you are doing the right thing that matches for your business, it matches for you. You know, if you hire a coach and they're like, do Instagram reels, and you're like, that is not me, but I'm going to do it, but it doesn't feel authentic, you aren't going to attract people to you because they're going to be able to tell that that's not the right thing for you. It doesn't match your brand. It doesn't match you. You're not being authentic. And so let's take a step back and look at what the theory is behind finding leads. So then we can pick the method that actually works right for you, not just what worked right for someone else. So let's take a look at that. First things first, to find a lead, the statistics show that you need between 7 and 12 touch points to turn them from someone who's just a stranger into attracting them into your funnel. And remember, we talked about that funnel a couple of weeks ago. You really need 7 to 12 touch points. And it really should be a variety of touch points. A post, maybe it is a reel, maybe it's an interaction, a comment on a post, maybe it's then talking in their DMs. It's these small touch points along the way that's going to develop that relationship. And you can't put all your eggs in one basket. I'm going to harp on reels a little bit just because it's so hot right now. And for me, it's just not me. That's not who I am. That's not how I feel authentic, so I don't do them. But let's say you put all your eggs in the basket of reels. You might be able to attract people that way, but you're going to need a plan that has some other touch points. I don't think you're really going to turn people in directly from strangers into customers with only doing reels on Instagram or on TikTok. You're going to need some other touch points along the way. And a lot of times when you hire a coach, they're only going to teach you one touch point. So you need to find somebody who's going to teach you a variety of touch points to attract them and to get them down into your funnel and not just hovering up here at the top. The other thing that I will say is at the same time, you can't do it all. You can't do 12 different touch points because there isn't enough of you. And unless you can afford to have a couple of VAs helping you along that process at the beginning, you need to be strategic in picking what you do and having a plan of how you're going to follow that funnel. So you need to have a couple of touch points, but you can't do it all. So you need to be very strategic in what you're doing and pick the things that have the highest ROI. And we talked about ROI a couple of weeks ago, that return on investment. So make sure that you're doing the things that get you the highest ROI. So if you want to grab a pen and paper, here are some things that you can do behind the scenes, getting yourself ready to be able to attract people to you. First of all, go back and watch my video, my high five approach. That approach is talking to you about what your problem is, what your niche is, mission, vision, and values, and also developing your method. That's the palm that kind of holds these fingers together, and then also your arm, which is the systems you need in order to carry all of those things out. Knowing all of that and being very super clear on those things, especially your niche and what is your problem that you solve for people, that's going to help you attract the right people. And that's going to help you create a systematic plan to help you attract them into your funnel. If you don't have a specific niche, then you're going to be in 5,000 different Facebook groups trying to attract a million different people, and you're not going to get anyone. But when you can be really clear on your niche, then you can target a few strategic Facebook groups or a few strategic places online to attract the right people to help them solve a very specific problem. Not 5 problems, just one specific problem. So understanding those things is really going to get you clear in your mind and give you peace of mind about who you're attracting and that you are actually able to solve their problem. The second thing you can do is understand the process of the lead. So once you have your niche and your what is the problem that I solve for people, you're going to create in your mind an avatar. And this word is really popular, but to me, an avatar is one specific imaginary person within your niche. So your niche gets you down into, like, for example, I help online coaches in the startup phase. That's very specific. But then you can create this avatar. You can actually name them and describe them, what their pain points are, who they are, what they like, what they don't like. So then when you're writing copy and emails and ads, you're targeting that one particular person. Now, it feels like when you get down in your niche or you get down into this avatar that you're going to limit yourself and not be able to market to anyone. But actually what you will find, and what every coach I've seen online says, is that the further down you niche, the easier it gets and the more people you attract. So for example, I'm helping someone who's working with homeschool parents about teaching them the Word of God and teaching their kids how to know and live out the Word of God. Now, is she going to be very specific in the homeschool community? Yes. Will she also attract people like me? My kids go to public school, but I also want them to know the Word of God. Yes, she's going to attract people like me, but her avatar is really specific into being a homeschool mom that does these kinds of things. So having that avatar will help you really speak to one specific person within that niche that you have. Now that avatar is a fake person, and it could be based off of someone that you actually turned into a customer and a client, but really that person is just an imaginary person that you have in your business. I know a lot of business owners name them, so then they're just talking to Kelly or whatever their avatar's name is. But then you're going to take that avatar, this imaginary person, and you're going to use that idea to now attract people as a lead. And we talked about leads a couple of weeks ago. Leads are these people that are out there that you want to attract into your funnel. And as you move them from your funnel, you're turning them into from a lead, from this avatar, this imaginary person that you have, that's just interested in who you are. They're checking out your posts. Maybe they joined your Facebook group, and now you want to move them down into that funnel. And you're going to turn them into a customer where they purchase something from you. It could be something small. It could be a $15 lead magnet that you have. It could be a $97 program that you have that starts to get them attracted and into your funnel. And once you have them start spending money, then you can turn them into what I call a client. They are people who are going to buy whatever you have, no matter what it is, because they know your brand, they like your product, you are quality, and you have now moved them into your funnel into being a client for life. They love you, they're a raving fan, they've seen what you can do, and they know that your product is really, really good. So you're moving them down in this funnel, but you have to have a plan about how you're going to do that. How am I going to attract them with those 7 to 12 touch points? What small problem am I going to solve to get them to start spending money with me in that, $15 to $100 range? It's an investment, but it's not a big investment. They're kind of testing you out to see. It's like the appetizer at a restaurant. Like, is this restaurant worth it for me to spend the full-blown amount to buy dinner? That's what you're doing in this funnel. And then once you have showed them that your stuff is quality and that it's really good, and you might have to give them freebies and get them to only spend a small amount of money before you're going to get them down in your funnel to invest in a much bigger product. So that's why a couple of weeks ago I was talking about you have to have that clear funnel. Starting at the top, moving them into interacting with you, spending a little bit of money with you, and then moving them into a client. It's a big leap to move from I saw a post on your Facebook to, oh, now I'm going to spend $1,000 with you. That's a big leap. You've got to have some steps along the way. The other thing that I said a couple of weeks ago that I'll remind you of that gets lost and will differentiate you if you are able to really do this is to remember that the people that are in your funnel are not just numbers, they're actually people. And when while you may never meet them in person, and you might not even ever meet them online, face to face on a Zoom or whatever, you still need to remember that these are people with a real problem that they are trying to solve. And if you can really do that well and love your people well and serve them well, then you will attract more people to you, because people really want that this day and age. They want authenticity, they want the truth, they want someone who cares and knows and understands. So that can set you apart too. The third thing that I see a lot of people miss out on is they don't actually verify their idea is a good one. They just think, oh, this worked for me, this is a problem for everyone, and then they don't verify that this is an actual felt need that people have. And so you need to go where you first started out when you were learning about what you want to do. Go where the people are. I realized a while back that when I very first had an idea for my business, I was on Pinterest. I was looking there for ideas. I was seeing what other people were doing. And so now I spend a lot of time doing my marketing on Pinterest, because that's where I was. And that's how I could verify, oh, there's lots of other people doing what I'm doing. That tells me there's a need for this problem that needs to be solved. I think a lot of times we think, oh, if a lot of other people are doing this, then there's not going to be a market for it. But actually, when there are other people doing what you want to be doing, that's a good thing, because they're verifying that your problem is a legitimate one and that your business will actually solve a problem for people. If no one is doing what you're doing, then you want to spend even more time verifying that your idea is actually worthwhile. Because you don't want to waste your time with an idea that isn't going to attract leads. So go where your people are. What are they saying? What are they doing? What language are they using? What problems are they having? What are they complaining about online? This gives you a lot of market research on what to use in your copy, how to attract people. You may have to pivot a little bit. You may have thought that the problem was this that people were trying to solve, but when you go in Facebook groups and online and on Pinterest, you actually see that it was this problem. So you need to just kind of make a small adjustment so that you're attracting people with a problem that already exists. And remember, as you're interacting with these people in Facebook groups, maybe even in your DMs online, think about them as if they were sitting across from you having coffee. What would you say to them? How would you interact with them? What questions would you ask? Being really curious at this phase is going to really help you when you can really dig into what they're thinking and what their problems are that you want to solve, which leads me into the next point of being a good listener. Listening to understand and being curious versus listening just to reply. This can also really set you apart as a business owner, if you're really able to do this, tell me more about this. I hear you saying this. Is that what you know, are really struggling with? You can say things back to them, but you want to be sure that you're really listening. I think a lot of times we just are looking for people to confirm what we already think is true, and that's actually called confirmation bias. And when you are only looking for answers that affirm what you think is true, you're going to find them, but it's not actually going to be the best information possible. The more open you can be and curious you can be, then you will actually find more and better information than just affirming what you think might be true. Be open to what people are saying and asking for. Another thing that you can do as you're looking for leads is adapt, pivot, and create. I just finished reading John Acuff's book called Soundtracks, and he has a saying in that book. It's pivot, don't panic. And I think that's a great one as we embark on a business adventure, is that we need to pivot instead of panic. It's really easy when we spend a lot of time doing something. Hey, I just did this whole email sequence and I didn't get any results from it. So we panic. So then we go in and we try and make all these changes instead of taking a little step back, pivoting just a little bit, not throwing the whole thing out, but pivoting just a little bit instead of panicking when something isn't working. We really need to train our minds that this is what we're going to do and just use that mantra over and over. I'm going to pivot, not panic, so that we can adapt and create a new solution instead of just throwing everything out and quitting and throwing our hands up. You're going to create a lot more work for yourself if you're in that panic mode. So the other thing that happens when we panic is then we just dig in our heels and we keep doing the same thing over and over because we think, oh, this is really going to work this time. Well, then we waste a lot of time because we haven't pivoted a little bit. We didn't go back to the Facebook groups and see what people were saying and get some responses. We forget to email our people and ask them, hey, you know, what are you looking for? So we can remember to pivot, not panic. The other thing, and I mentioned this already, is having that clear funnel, having that clear path from the top of how I'm going to attract people and move them through my funnel. I have to be really, really clear. You can't leave anything up to guesswork for them. You need to tell them, this is your next step. This is what we're doing, instead of leaving it to guess, open to guess. You need to map out that plan and have that be really clear. And when you see what works, keep doing what works. And when something isn't working, get really curious. Why didn't it work? How can I make a small tweak to this so that it does work? And then I think the other thing is we are always, as business owners, looking for new opportunities, but we don't have a good filter to run those opportunities through to see if they're actually going to work for us. Just because it worked for someone else doesn't mean that it's on brand for us or the right time for us or that we have the right capacity to do what's working for everyone else. We need to be clear on what our funnel is, so then we can say no to the things that don't match what our plan is, and we can say yes. Sorry, I keep having this itch on my nose. Allergies are bad. We can say yes to the things that actually do match what our problem is and what our niche is and what our mission, vision, and values are. When we have those things really, really clearly laid out, then it makes it easier to say yes to the things that are going to attract the people into our funnel. The other thing that I will say is that even though you're doing all of this stuff in the background and it's kind of the theory behind it and research and interacting with people before you're actually turning them into leads, is don't wait to get started. I think a lot of us will hang out in the background and try and figure all of this out and get it perfect before we actually just start. And we just need to start. We need to get out there. I started interacting in Facebook groups when I didn't really know what I was doing, but it gave me a lot of research. There are a lot of posts in Facebook groups that'll say like, what do you do? And I would post something in the comments, about what I was doing, but I wasn't clear on my niche and I wasn't clear on what problem I solved. And I got a lot of feedback because no one was interacting with me. No interaction is feedback. And so I knew that I needed to change what I was putting in those little, what do you do for your business, because no one was responding. Now, when I respond and I say, this is what I do, come to my Facebook group, here's what I'm doing, I get people joining my Facebook group. I get people interacting. So I know I'm getting closer to having a clear niche and having a clear problem that I solve that's an actual real felt need, because I'm getting some interactions on those posts. So don't wait to start just because you don't think you have it perfect, because in that messy middle of not really knowing, you can actually get a lot of feedback, and get, even if it's no feedback, that's still feedback, to know that you're headed in the right direction. Get out there and start talking about it. I remember when I really, really first started my business and didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of dabbling more in the Christian mindset for women area. And I sat down on an airplane next to a lady who was really friendly, and she was chatting me up, and she asked me what I did for a living. And I couldn't verbalize it to her. So I just said, "Oh, I just retired from education. I was an assistant principal and worked in schools for 20 years." And I couldn't answer her question because I didn't have these things clear. Now when someone asks me, just the other day someone asked me like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, I couldn't stop talking because I was so excited about what I'm doing. I know my niche. I know the problem that I solve. I love helping business owners get started to finally take action to launch a profitable business with the knowledge that they need and the systems that they didn't know they needed. I now can say that easily, and that came from doing all these things that I've told you about this morning. That's months and months of trying it out, talking, and now if someone asks me on the airplane or at Starbucks or whatever, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" It just rolls off the tongue. It's easy. They can tell I'm excited. People can tell by my facial expressions and the way I talk about it that I'm actually excited about it, and I know what I'm doing. So don't wait to start that process. It's going to be messy. It's going to be little bit ugly. You're going to get people saying, "Well, I don't really understand that. Can you explain it a little bit more?" Use that feedback to push you to get more clear on that high five method of all of those things, so then you can be clear about what you're doing. So here's a couple of other reminders that I have that I've either seen people doing online, that's kind of a turnoff, or I've done them myself. So learn from me. A couple of other reminders as you're working through this theory and putting all of this stuff into place to attract people into your funnel is: one, don't be desperate. I know that when you're starting a business, you really, really just want to get clients, you want to start making money, but people can like smell the desperation online. And I see it all the time in Facebook groups. People are just desperate to make a sale. It doesn't sell. You need to come from a place of service. I want to serve you where you are, whether you buy from me or not, with solving your problem because you're in my niche. And remember your values and your brand. For me, one of my values is I want to be helpful. That's like me as a person. I want to be helpful. If you are at the grocery store and you need, I see older people and they drop something, I'm going to pick it up for you. If you're my kid and you need help with your homework so that you can study, I'm going to help you. Yesterday was my birthday. My son needed to study for this big history test. I really didn't want to do it, but I want to be helpful. I want him to be successful. And it's the same way in my business. If I see you struggling with something, I want to be helpful. I want to serve you and help you with the knowledge that I possess, that I feel like God has blessed me with, to help you in your business. So remember your brand and don't be desperate. The other thing is, I think there's a lot of fear among coaches, especially when they're first starting out. Like, let's say that you're like me and you want to help people starting a business. I sometimes have a fear of like, someone's going to come to me that's already making $1 million and I don't know how to help them. Well, here's a good piece of advice. You're not going to attract people to you that you are not ready to help yet. So those kinds of people who are already making $1 million are not going to be attracted to my brand, because I'm very clear that I'm a startup coach. So I don't have to worry that I'm not going to attract the right people. So if you are just starting out as, let's say like a bookkeeper or an accounting, or, you want to help people get their LLC set up, you aren't going to attract people if you have good marketing and good, clear what problem you solve, you're not going to attract the wrong people. You'll only attract the people that you are ready for. The other thing that I love that a coach taught me is this idea of poking the universe. And I was very hesitant to do it at first because it feels a little scary. It's risky, but it's this idea of just poking the bear a little bit, poking the universe to see what happens. For example, I was invited to be a part of an online summit that was this last weekend. I had never been a part of a summit before. I hadn't recorded a live or I hadn't recorded a talk online before at that point in time. But I decided I'm going to poke the universe. I'm going to see how it turns out. And it was a great experience. I learned so much about summits and interacting with people and advertising just from kind of poking the universe with that. It could be something small, like I'm just going to poke the universe and post this in a Facebook group that has 500,000 people and see what the response is. It could be I'm going to poke the universe and get in a DM with someone and see if they could turn into a potential client. I don't know what that poking the universe might be for you, but I would just say do it. Do it early on in your business and see what happens. Take a risk. If it doesn't work out, then great. All you did was poke the universe and see how it turned out. But that's a great one to do too. The other thing that I would also say is to pray and ask God to help people find the right people for you. You don't want a ton of people at the beginning. I think a lot of people are like, I just want 400 people in my Facebook group or whatever. But if you got 400 people in your Facebook group from 0 to 400 in a week, you wouldn't know what to do with them. You wouldn't have the systems in place to be able to interact with them and to give them what they need to move them through their funnel. You actually want slow growth so that you can serve people over time and build the systems and routines so that you can actually make it sustainable. So you can pray and ask God to help you find the right people, because you could get 400 people in your Facebook group and that looks great, but what if they're all the wrong people? What if I got all the wrong people into my Facebook group? Now I have this group that isn't even people that I want to move into my funnel. So you want to pray and ask God to help you find the right people and get the right people coming into your business over a slow period of time. Not super slow, not like years, but over weeks and months instead of that big influx at the beginning. So that's a lot of theory on getting leads, but I really do firmly believe that if you do all of this background work, verifying your market, getting really clear on what problem you solve, knowing your niche and how you're going to help solve them, having a general outline of how you're going to move them through your funnel, you're going to attract the right people over time through that funnel so that you can turn them from leads into customers into long-time clients that are spending money in your business. And if you avoid doing some of this background work, you might attract people at the beginning, but then you aren't going to know what to do with them once you've attracted them into your brand. So I hope that's really helpful for you. Next week, we're going to talk more about where are the people, where can I find them, and really narrowing in on what your sweet spot is to attract people. But you got to do all this work first so that you're ready to actually interact with people and get them into your brand. So just as a reminder, I do have a few things to help you. Right now, these things are free. I'm working on just this week developing some programs that are going to be for purchase, so you can get some of these ideas now while they're free. The first one is when I coach clients, I help them build a business in a binder and actually get super organized. I have my binder over here, but there's a bunch of stuff on it, or I'd show you. And it gets your business into a binder, organized. It gets you your whole high five method of having all of these things very clear. It gets you into starting a funnel of how am I going to build this out. It gets you into your offer, what I'm going to offer to people so that they actually buy from me and pay me money to help them solve their problem. And I have that table of contents, just that general outline for free right now. So I'll drop a link below. And I also help you start to develop a roadmap for creating those items in your business in a binder. And that's called a consultation call. And I'd love to hop on a Zoom with you and chat for a little bit about where you are in your business and see if we can work together, that we would be a good fit. And then I also encourage you to join my Facebook group if you're watching this in the future, and interact on Wednesdays. I always have Q&As that you can interact with and ask questions so I can help you get moving in the right direction and you can actually start getting this work done behind the scenes to have the foundation that you need to then attract people to your business. I also want to plug that in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a Facebook Live about one of the most important things you can do as a business owner, and that's have an email list. And that's one of the pieces of your funnel that you really need to attract these leads. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to talk about that too. So if this video was helpful for you, please invite others that you know to the Facebook group and share this video with others. I hope you have a fantastic Monday, and thanks for joining me today.